Good evening and welcome to Cronkite Cut. I'm Faith Abercrombie.
And I'm Quentin Walker. Thank you for joining us. The people have spoken, and here's who came home with a People's Choice Award. The award show aired live on E! November 10th and opted once again to go without a host. Categories for the event are broad, including music, movies, and television. Big name winners of the night included Zendaya, Marvel, and Stranger Things. Zendaya took home 2 individual awards for Female Movie Star and Drama TV Star of 2019. Those awards being for her film Spider-Man Far From Home and HBO show Euphoria. Millie Bobby Brown won an individual award as well, taking home Female TV Star. The ensemble series Stranger Things went on to nab Show and Drama Show of the Year. Standout speeches included Pink receiving the People's Champion Award. The singer took the mic to say, "There is a planet that needs help. It feels good to help. Stop fighting each other and help each other. Get together with your friends and change the world." Meanwhile, actor Noah Centineo's speech didn't go over as well. Many viewers were left confused after hearing his words, quote, "It matters not what you've done, but what you do with what you've done for others," end quote. Definitely a mouthful. Did you hear him say that part of his speech?
I was like scrolling on Twitter and I saw it and someone was like, "I don't understand this." So I watched it and I was like, "I don't get it either."
At first I thought it might just be me being dumb because that happens sometimes, but I was looking through it and I watched it like a third time. And it didn't make sense.
I mean, I watched this over and over again, and my brain was like a hamster on a wheel, and I was like, I just do not understand what he's trying to get across.
You could see in his eyes, too, the sparks, they were just like, both of his brain cells were on opposite sides of his head, you know?
I agree, but whatever. I mean, he was trying to put a positive message out there. I just think we're all a little confused.
Yeah, he tried.
Well, a popular video game from the 90s recently got a slight makeover in the form of an appearance update. The updated appearance debuted in a new and improved Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer. Cut reporter Drake Presto has more.
What has bigger eyes, fewer teeth, and more of what you may remember from your childhood? Sonic, the beloved 90s video game icon, got the facelift that fans have been begging for following the horrific backlash that the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer received. Fans were disgusted with the original trailer design when it debuted back in late April. Sonic, they said, looked drastically different from the lovable hedgehog that they all had grown up playing. Now with larger eyes around her face and definitely less teeth, he more closely resembles the video game character he is based on and not that creepy version that initially debuted. Director Jeff Fowler had tweeted he would make the changes, saying both Paramount and Sega were open to it. And luckily for our eyes, they did. In the studio, I'm Drake Presto, Cronkite Cut.
Well-known singer Drake ran into trouble during his latest festival performance. The Hotline Bling singer didn't even get a chance to sing this song because he was booed off the stage. The annual Camp Flog Gnaw festival held by Tyler the Creator had some speculation from the fans about the special guest performer. Fans assumed that artist Frank Ocean would be the unknown performer. When Frank didn't appear, fans were clearly disappointed. Drake sang a couple of songs, and when he asked, "If you want me to keep going, I'll keep going," the crowd responded by yelling back, "No," and booed him off the set. Tyler, the Creator, then tweeted about his frustration with the crowd and how this situation was like cancel culture in real life. Drake made fun of the matter by Instagramming this photo and saying, "Plot twist, just signed a 10-year residency at Camp Flog Gnaw. Sorry kids, see you every year until you're 30. I just think if my broke butt was at a festival, whatever artist came out, I would be so happy to see them, especially Drake. Like, it's not like he's this lame performer. I don't get why the crowd responded like this.
To be fair, he did ask,
and everyone was like, no. Like, how embarrassing. I feel so bad for him.
That's why you never ask for validation, because someone out there won't give it to you.
Nope, you just keep on going. You don't even ask.
Exactly. No.
Well, poor him. I feel bad for him, but I'm glad he was like able to make light of the situation.
Oh yeah, he
and
came
make fun
back
of
at
himself.
him real fast.
Yes.
Oh. Trips to the emergency room are never fun, but in this case, star Nina Dobrev was lucky enough to have a friend by her side. Cut reporter Megan Newsham has more.
This past weekend, former Vampire Diaries star Nina Dobrev found herself in the emergency room after suffering from a severe allergic reaction. Quickly after, actress bestie to Dobrev, Julianne Hough, rushed to her side. Huff revealed she was at the emergency room through a series of Instagram stories, having her followers guess who she was with. Her first post said, "Who else would I be at the emergency room with on a Sunday night? Thank God I went to visit this little sheesh." The following post included more hints until she revealed she was with Nina, with the caption, "Most of you guessed immediately. At Nina, Mama J's got you, crystals and all." What a true friend. Everyone should have a friend like Huff. Dobrev later assured fans she is safely home and will be okay. In the studio, I'm Megan Newsham, Cronkite Cut.
Singer Shawn Mendes and Camilla Cabello are not afraid to show their affection. The couple recently went on a date and showed that the sparks are still flying. Reporter Anna Steinsfield has more.
Everyone's favorite couple was spotted once again, and this time there was lots of PDA involved. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Shawn Mendes and Camilla Cabello went on a date this past Monday to see a basketball game. The two sat courtside at the Los Angeles Staples Center and watched the Los Angeles Clippers face off against the Toronto Raptors, although I'm not too sure how much of the game they actually watched. The couple was spotted cuddling virtually the entire game and even shared a few kisses. This shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, though, after the couple's dating rumors began this past summer. After the steamy music video they released to their hit song, Señorita, it seems like the two just haven't been able to get enough of each other. I just hope they can find some time to get away from one another to produce some more music. In the studio, I'm Anna Stansfield, Cronkite Cut.
Well, there's nothing better than a surprise performance, and that's exactly what Selena Gomez did at Julia Michaels' latest concert. What better way to show one's friendship than performing live with your bestie? Well, reporter Ricky Cornish has more.
Selena Gomez didn't just show up to an event, she left her mark. The pop star made a surprise appearance at a Julia Michaels concert at the Fonda Theater in LA Monday night. The two are very close friends, and Julia has co-wrote a ton of Selena's hits, including Hands to Myself and her first #1 song, Lose You to Love Me. At the concert, the BFFs performed their duet Anxiety together for the first time and exchanged on-stage hugs and kisses. After the show, they cemented their friendship with matching tattoos. The two put arrows on the bases of their thumbs pointing at each other. Talk about friend goals. In the studio, Ricky Cornish, Cronkite Cut.
This past Monday's episode of Jeopardy had a touching moment that made Alex Trebek a bit emotional. After a contestant wrote, "What is, we love you, Alex," in place of his answer, the longtime host briefly paused before carrying on with the show.
Trebek began hosting Jeopardy back in 1984 and has since built a name for himself alongside the famous quiz show. After revealing his diagnosis of stage 4 pancreatic cancer, this contestant's touching answer was one for the books. I think the most touching part about this is, like, he had a lot of money in his bank that he was ready to win, and instead of choosing to answer the question with even a guess, he took it as an opportunity to send a message to the host and in turn lost, all of his money. He gave it all up for him.
The fact that Trebek was able to keep going, I mean, I would just break down right there and start crying. Like, he's so strong. And this touching moment with the fan, like you were saying, they risked it for him. So I think it was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, and we've reported on him in past episodes, including this semester. And he said it's been very hard to continue on with the show, but he couldn't imagine anyone else being up in that studio. And I couldn't either.
I couldn't either. So thank goodness he's continuing on and we get to see his bright spirit through these episodes.
And best of luck to him in the future. Well, that's it for this episode of Cronkite Cut.
For a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on our social media at @thecut_network.
And stick around for an all-new Sports Cut up next.
My name is Mark Lodato, and I'm the Associate Dean at the Cronkite School.
I'm Kristen Gilger, Senior Associate Dean at the Walter Cronkite School.
Hi, I'm Chris Callahan. I'm the Dean and a Professor at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, and I'm delighted today to be talking about the Cut Network.
What's most exciting to me right now is that students and future journalists have the opportunity to take their career in so many different directions. When I was coming up through the journalism ranks, it was pretty much television, radio, or newspapers. But look at what you can do with these skills today. You've got traditional media outlets, but you also have all sorts of new platforms in ways in which you can be a good storyteller. And then you've also got those core skills of critical thinking, strong communication, and writing, and you can literally take that anywhere. So I like to remind students that while media job may be the first step in their career, that career can go down all sorts of different paths over the course of time, and you can end up in a really exciting and challenging place.
My favorite part about the journalism industry, pretty much everything. We just talked about this in Journalism 110 this morning, and there's so many different reasons to be excited about being a journalist, that you're providing a public service, that you're connected to your community, that you get to explore issues that you're interested in, you get to inform your community in very, very powerful ways, but also it's highly creative, and there's a significant fun factor involved, that you get the job at its essence is going out and talking to interesting people about interesting things, and then producing content around that, and that is it is unbelievably rewarding.
You're going to doubt yourself sometimes. You're going to doubt whether this is even the right choice for you sometimes, and that's fine, because doubting can make you think more deeply about things, ask more questions, listen more closely, but in the end, you should follow your passion. You should follow the thing that makes you happy and excited and engaged and interested. And if journalism does that, if public relations does that, if sports reporting does that, if creating new forms of media does that, then that's what you should do.
Good evening and welcome to the Sports Cut. I'm Simon Williams.
And I'm Kaylee Connors. Thank you for joining us. The best team in women's college basketball just beat the best team in the world. The University of Oregon's women's basketball team was the preseason #1 team in the country and favorite to win the national championship. But after their win against the women's national team, the roster headed to the Olympics this summer, the hype for the Ducks is off the rails. Only once has a college team beat the U.S. women's national team. Back in 1999, the Tennessee Volunteers, but Tennessee only won by a single point. Oregon defeated Team USA by a comfortable lead of 7. Now, Team USA was missing multiple key players, Elena Deladon, Brianna Stewart, and Brittany Griner. Oregon also has 3 first-round picks on their roster in Ionescu, Sabally, and Hebard.
The leading candidates in the race currently are dual-threat quarterbacks Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. Lamar, who has exploded onto the scene in his first full season as a starter, became only the second QB ever to have 2 perfect passer rating games in the same season. Seattle Seahawks QB Russell Wilson has 23 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. The factor putting Wilson slightly above Jackson in the race right now is Wilson's performance in Monday night's 27-24 win over the previously undefeated 49ers. Jackson also had a great game this weekend, though, tossing for 223 yards and scoring 4 total touchdowns in a 49-13 win over the AFC North rival Cincinnati Bengals. Jackson put himself in an exclusive club as he became one of 7 quarterbacks to have multiple perfect passer rating games. Both teams' schedules heat up as the season continues, so make sure to keep an eye on those 2 playmakers as they hit the final stretch. The factor putting Wilson slightly above Jackson in the MVP race right now is Wilson's performance in Monday night's 27-24 win over the previously undefeated 49ers. Jackson also had a great game this weekend, though, tossing for 223 yards and scoring 4 total touchdowns in a 49-13 win over the AFC North rival Cincinnati Bengals. Jackson put himself in an exclusive club as he became one of 7 quarterbacks to have multiple perfect passer rating games in the same season. Both teams' schedules heat up as the season continues, so make sure to keep an eye on these 2 playmakers as they hit the final stretch.
So, Connor, what challenges will Lamar Jackson face against a really solid Texans defense this upcoming week? And they've done fairly well without J.J. Watt.
Right. Well, Bill O'Brien down there in Texas runs a very aggressive defense, and he has to look out for 3 really good linebackers in Whitley Merciless, Zach Cunningham, and Benardrick McKinney. So he's got to look out for them and make sure he can make a difference.
Now, the Texans hold opponents to under 6 yards per rush. Jaycen likes to take it himself. What's he going to have to do to maybe switch up the game plan?
Right. Well, they run a 3-4 defense that likes to blitz a lot. And when you run a defense that's that aggressive, they have to stay in their lanes. Hopefully Jaycen can catch them off guard and see if he can take it himself.
Definitely, and newly acquired Josh Gordon was thrown to only twice last week, but how does having a veteran on the roster come in these kind of situations?
Well, the Seahawks have a very interesting wide receiver core, and they have DK Metcalf, this young, explosive rookie who has made quite a difference, and also Tyler Lockett, who is making his claim for the Pro Bowl. But having a player like Josh Gordon, who is a spark plug, he can make a big difference at any time, even though he's been targeted limitedly in the past games.
The Premier Lacrosse League has recently announced that the league will be adding a 7th team to play in the 2020 season. This is a historic moment for the PLL as they continue to build their business. The 7th and currently unnamed team will provide a greater playing opportunities for these athletes, additional fan engagement for the league, and a wider reach for their corporation partners. The league will be holding an official expansion draft in February 2020 to decide the roster for the 7th club. In addition, all 7 teams will be eligible to draft players in the 2020 college draft in April. More details that include the expansion club's name, coaching staff, and protected roster policies for the original 6 clubs will be announced at a later date. For the Sports Cut, I'm Emily Bernstein.
For this week's highlight of the week, we look into some of the biggest plays in the NFL, NBA, and NHL. First, we have the NBA matchup between the Atlanta Hawks and the Denver Nuggets. Currently, the Nuggets are 7-3 after taking the loss against the 4-6 Hawks. The final score ended at 125-121 after 7 of the Hawks players scored more than 20 points and 2 players scoring more than 40. Next, we have the now not undefeated San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers came off it with an early lead in the first quarter to have the Seahawks fight back to score 7 and 14 in the second and third quarters. The 49ers came back in the fourth quarter, resulting in a tie to end the game and go into overtime. The Seahawks kicked a field goal, making the score 27-24, beating the 49ers. They are now 8-1 and the Seahawks 8-2, coming off that huge win. Finally, we have the NHL's Colorado Avalanche versus the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets were sitting comfortable with a record of 10-8-0 before taking the 4-0 loss against the Avalanche yesterday. The Jets took their first loss of the season when the Avalanche took the 1-0 lead in the first and then scored 3 more goals to end the game. Now looking at a record of 11-5-2, Colorado is coming off a huge win, beating an undefeated team. Now let's take a look at the video.
So let's hit the hardwood. Trae Young saucing up the first defender, and a smooth give and go to Jabari Parker. We know this kid can score, so why not show one of his dishes? Oh, a beautiful feed to the big man. Jabari had himself a night too with a +16 rating on the floor. Trae Young adding to his 11 assist night. He went 42, 11, and 4 on the night. Let's go to the NFL. Here comes Jimmy Garoppolo trying to make something happen, but Jadeveon Clowney takes the fumble to the house. He had 5 tackles on the night, one of which was that forced fumble and the touchdown to help out Seattle. Now Russell Wilson is a victim of a turnover effort as the defense really locked things up for San Francisco to help push things into overtime. So as much as the offense might be credited with the win, defense helped them get there. All right, this was 30 seconds into the game. Avalanche goalie gets hit immediately upon hitting the net and gets decked. He has to be taken out of the game. Like, this is big time. Like, this wasn't even just a penalty or nothing. He gets taken out of the game. Pavel Francouz takes the hit. I'm not fluent in French, but I think that's Pavel Francouz. So here comes Nate McKinnon. He's like, all right, you know what? Let me take this myself. Nate McKinnon goes for 4 points of the night, 2 goals, 2 assists. Look at this beautiful move. Able to weave in and out of the Jets defense and find the back of the net. Excellent look for the captain, putting himself in an all-star nod later this season. Excellent work by McKinnon and the Avs.
Oh, definitely.
That's it for this edition of the Sports Cut.
For a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on our social medias at @thecut_network.
Stay tuned for an all-new Cut for News coming right up.
Ooh.
Good stuff.
Hello.
Yeah. Mr. President.
My name is Mark Lodato, and I'm the Associate Dean at the Cronkite School.
I'm Kristen Gilger, Senior Associate Dean at the Walter Cronkite School.
Hi, I'm Chris Callahan. I'm the Dean and a Professor at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, and I'm delighted today to be talking about the CUT network.
What's most exciting to me right now is that students and future journalists have the opportunity to take their career in so many different directions. When I was coming up through the journalism ranks, it was pretty much television, radio, or newspapers. But look at what you can do with these skills today. You've got traditional media outlets, but you also have all sorts of new platforms and ways in which you can be a good storyteller. And then you've also got those core skills of critical thinking, strong communication, and writing, and you can literally take that anywhere. So I like to remind students that while a media job may be the first step in their career, that career can go down all sorts of different paths over the course of time, and you can end up in a really exciting and challenging place.
My favorite part about the journalism industry, pretty much everything. We just talked about this in Journalism 110 this morning, and there's so many different reasons to be excited about being a journalist, that you're providing a public service, that you're connected to your community, that you get to explore issues that you're interested in, you get to inform your community in very, very powerful ways, but also it's highly creative, and there's a significant fun factor involved, that you get the job at its essence is going out and talking to interesting people about interesting things, and then producing content around that, and that is it is unbelievably rewarding.
You're going to doubt yourself sometimes. You're going to doubt whether this is even the right choice for you sometimes, and that's fine, because doubting can make you think more deeply about things, ask more questions, listen more closely, but in the end, you should follow your passion. You should follow the thing that makes you happy and excited and engaged and interested. And if journalism does that, if public relation does that, if sports reporting does that, if creating new forms of media does that, then that's what you should do.
Good evening and welcome to Cut for News. I'm Carolina Hassett.
And I'm Athena Ankra. Thank you for joining us.
Rodney Reed, an inmate on death row, is scheduled to be executed on November 20th for the murder of Stacey Stites. In 1996, Stites was strangled with a belt and had bruises on her body when she was found dead. Reed was taken into custody when they found his DNA associated with the case. As the investigation behind the case continued, people began to question if Reed was the one to blame for the murder. Stites' fiancé at the time had previously spent 10 years in prison for kidnapping and raping a woman while he was on duty as a police officer. A fellow inmate of Reed said her fiancé had admitted to the murder. More than 2.7 million people have signed an online petition to stop Reed's execution, and many celebrities have spoken out supporting him. Reed's family made a public statement saying they will not give up and will fight for him until the very end. So Athena, this is a lot to unpack here. More and more evidence is coming out about this case. Some people are saying that Reed is like manipulating his lawyers and that they still think that he's guilty, but you know, now they have this fiance who has had a bad history in the past with women and has allegedly admitted to the murder.
Wow.
And also there is another man who came forward who has the same lawyers as Reed has right now, and he was in the exact same boat. So that's a whole nother piece to kind of throw on the table. So what are your thoughts?
Wow, that's intense. I think it's especially frightening during this case, the fact that there's not a whole lot of time left to make this decision of who's right and who's wrong and who's innocent and who's guilty, because he's being sentenced in the next week or so here.
Yeah.
So time will tell how we'll see that turn out.
Absolutely.
The publicly televised impeachment hearings have begun, but what do we do with the information presented by each witness? To break down how the hearings are going to work, here's some things you should know. The first round of witnesses includes 3 officials involved with U.S. policy in Ukraine. The first, William Taylor, is the top diplomat in Ukraine. George Kent is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, and in his testimony, he describes the alleged involvement of Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Finally, Marie Yovanovitch will testify. She is the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Yovanovitch was removed from the position after being criticized by Giuliani and his associates. Those are our first round of witnesses, but how does questioning work? Well, the committee casting votes consists of 13 Democrats and 9 Republicans. Most lawmakers will get about 5 minutes of questioning each. Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff and Ranking Member Devin Nunes will have the option to extend their times equally for up to 45 minutes. They also get the opportunity to yield that time to designated lawyers. Chairman Schiff says that the hearings are, quote, intended to bring the facts to light for the American people. Now, witnesses are expected to make a case to prove that the president abused power. Republican lawmakers are expected to illustrate that the witnesses had a lack of direct interaction with the president. Many say that the congressman will also focus on a conspiracy that Ukraine meddled with the 2016 presidential election, not Russia. Nunes, who you will remember to be the Republican committee member, is expected to release an approved list of additional witnesses soon. The unapproved list, as it stands, consists of Joe Biden's son Hunter and the anonymous whistleblower whose allegations became the center of the case. Right now, it seems highly unlikely that these witnesses will be approved by the Democrats, but we'll just wait and see. The hearings will be broadcast live in places like NPR, ABC, PBS, NBC, and many local radio stations, so keep an eye out and stay informed. All right, so did you watch any of the hearings today?
Yes, I did. And one of the main takeaways I can say is that it is still so divided. I mean, the Republicans are set that there is no impeachment offense that he committed, and the Democrats are set that he did. So I think the only way to keep learning about what's happening is just to keep watching, because there's going to be more witnesses, more information continuing to reveal itself. So we'll have to see what happens. A tragedy occurred on our campus this past week. Cut for News reporter John Brown gives us the facts. John?
ASU released a statement Monday saying they found a student dead on the campus's Greek Leadership Village grounds. The investigation is ongoing, but foul play has been ruled out of the student's death. The school wants to emphasize that hazing and threats were not active factors in the incident. As an ASU-affiliated organization, we want to wish our sincere condolences to the victim's family and friends during this time. In the studio, John Brown, Cut for News.
A former president recently underwent a severe surgery. Cut for News specialist Ryan Tizmaneski has the story.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter underwent surgery at Emory University Hospital on Tuesday morning to relieve pressure on his brain. The Carter Center stated that the pressure was caused by internal bleeding from his recent falls. There were no complications from the surgery, and Carter plans to remain in the hospital until fully recovered. Carter, 95, recently became the longest living American president in the nation's history. Despite suffering many injuries, he continues to build homes through Habitat for Humanity, creating affordable housing for families across the nation. The former president's humanitarian efforts netted him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2002, and he continues to advocate for peace today. From the studio, I'm Ryan Tizmaneski.
Now we send it over to Cut for News specialist Jamie Landers for an update on DACA.
It seems the Trump administration is officially moving forward in its efforts to end DACA, the program that has allowed more than 800,000 Dreamers to avoid deportation. With hundreds of protesters outside, the Supreme Court heard over an hour of arguments on Tuesday. And witnesses say that based on their questions, it appeared that 5 conservative justices admitted supporting the Department of Homeland Security when it ordered the end of the program in 2017. Since the start of his presidency in 2016, 5 courts have blocked Trump from ending DACA down. But whether or not the highest court will do the same is expected to be decided once and for all in the midst of the 2020 election. In the studio, Jamie Landers, Cut for News.
Next, Cut for News specialist Mia Marquez brings news on Israel. Mia?
Early Tuesday, the Israel Defense Forces announced that it had successfully targeted Islamic Jihad commander Baha Abu el-Atta in an airstrike. In a news conference later that day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu referred to Abu el-Atta as a, quote, ticking bomb and the main instigator of terrorism from the Gaza Strip. At least 45 other people in Gaza were reportedly injured in the airstrike. In retaliation, Gaza sent nearly 200 rockets into Israel, reportedly injuring at least 19 people. We will keep you updated as tensions between Israel and Gaza continue to escalate. In the studio, I'm Mia Marquez, Cut for News.
So this week has been a pretty cool break for the Valley.
Evan Liss is tracking the latest on weather we can expect to see this week.
Thanks so much, guys. Welcome to your Cut for News weather forecast for this week. I'm Evan Liss. Let's dive right into it. So for the past week and a half or so, we've been seeing temperatures way above where they're supposed to be for this time of the year, about 10 degrees or more above average. Last Friday, we were even flirting with 90 degrees, so we really have been stuck in those 80s, haven't been able to get rid of them. Now, yesterday, we had the help of a weak backdoor cold front, which moved in from the east. It was actually part of that much larger polar plunge that a lot of areas way out east of us have been experiencing. Everybody's been talking about it. A little bit of that cooler air seeped into our area, pushed down our temperatures from the high 80s to the low 80s. Now, as we go into the weekend, we're going to see some high clouds start to move in Thursday, especially on Friday. And then something really exciting next week, potentially the real possibility for rain. This would be a big deal for us because it's actually been 50 days on Friday. It'll be 50 days since we've last seen measurable rainfall here in the Phoenix metro. That last date was September 26th when we had that really exciting weather week with the remnants of Hurricane Lorraine and everything moving in. Now, it's way too far out for models to tell us for sure if it'll rain here in Phoenix, and if so, how much. However, we are starting to get a better idea of what's going to be happening higher up in the atmosphere. So we're going to see this upper level disturbance start out in the Pacific Northwest, and each day it's going to edge further south until on Wednesday it should be centered right off the coast of Southern California, right about here. And then, if we're lucky, we're going to see this trough start to advect moisture into Arizona, and that should help push up our precipitation chances going into the mid part of next week and the later part of next week. That's right outside of the periphery of our 5-day forecast, which ends on Monday of next week when it starts to clear out. In the beginning, you can see, as we have here, we have the high clouds moving in on Thursday, and then a lot more moving in on Friday. It's going to be noticeable, but we won't see any of those clouds affect our temperatures, which are going to remain in the low to mid 80s going into next week, with highs in the mid to upper 50s. But if we did have Tuesday on here, right past the Monday, you would see the temperatures affected, likely seeing highs in the mid to upper 70s as we start to go under the influence of that upper level disturbance moving in from the west. And if you've been waiting on the rain, then next week should be your best shot at seeing some. That's it for now. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Evan. For this week's political discussion, Apple unveiled their new credit card service in conjunction with Goldman Sachs. One customer voiced his complaint, which became a viral tweet saying that the service was sexist.
David Heinemeier Hansen said his credit limit was 20 times higher than his wife's, who has a higher credit score. The couple has joint tax returns as well. Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, said the same thing happened to him and his wife. Many people are joining together on Twitter to voice their similar experiences with the card.
Hansen contacted Apple support to complain about the issue, and there wasn't much to be done after. The card system is now facing major backlash and is under investigation. So this one's a little bit interesting. The only thing that I'll say about this particular issue is my problem with people saying that the algorithm itself is biased. There were a lot of people from Apple support that were saying that the algorithm has issues and that they need to tweak it, which is correct. But I would say that rather than the algorithm itself, the computer system being biased, it's probably the data that was put into the system to create it. And that could have been caused by a number of factors. That could have been human error. But saying that the algorithm itself was the issue might not be the case.
I totally agree. And I think it's, it's one thing to say that it's like one couple that experienced it. But once they took to Twitter, so many more people were saying like, no, that happened to me. That happened to me. So with this kind of backlash, the company definitely needs to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate what's going on because so many people are angry.
Right.
Well, that's it for this edition of Cut for News.
For a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on social media at @thecut_network.
Have a good night.